Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. How is everybody doing? Great to see you all. Oh my goodness. We did it. Almost. We almost did it. Crazy how fast 3 years goes by, isn't it, Moo Man? Isn't it just? Yeah, really amazing. Amazing stuff. Let me just move my chair up a little bit. That's better. Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We are here for our release celebration of version 11. 3 years in the bag. V11 is expected to be out later today. We were working hard to get the update posted before this stream, but we found one little issue that we needed to fix. And so the build is in the pipeline now. The team is testing the rebuild. Things are going ahead a little bit slower than expected, but it's going. And yes, we expect that version 11 will be out later today for you all to jump into. This will be the stable release. So I hope you're all eagerly looking forward to that. And we're certainly really proud of what we've created. I think it's a really great version of the software. And it's one that is going to, I think, knocking on would be a relatively easy transition for people to step into. So really excited for folks to to get to that. Launch delay is like the center square of the bingo card. Yes, you're right. I also apologize a little bit in advance. There's been a little bit of cold, the lurgy as it were, going around the house, and unfortunately with all the stream events and stuff we have this week, it's not the best week for my voice or cough or cold symptoms or whatever to be a challenge. But I've got some tea, so lemon tea. It's gonna help me out, and so apologize in advance if I break into a coughing fit or anything on stream. Holding it together. But it's gonna be really great to get this out to everybody. I think my plan for the stream today is to kind of go through the main features that V11 has, hang out, answer questions, show off some of the things that we've done with maybe some of the house divided updates is what I have up here on screen right now, and then maybe talk a little bit about Crucible just in brief. That'll be a major focus of the stream tomorrow. But yeah, talk to you all about what to expect from V11, answer your questions, just hang out, hopefully have a good time. So thank you all so much for joining me. Oh, I'll also do some giveaways. So sometime during the stream today, I'll do some giveaways for probably a couple pieces of premium content. So hang out and maybe get some free stuff. Yeah, be gone cold. Yeah, I don't know. We've got streamed events today, tomorrow, and Friday. So I'll pull up on this on this right hand monitor. I'll pull up the schedule. Let's see, it's this way. So we've got today we've got the V11 release celebration. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., so 1 hour earlier than this stream, there's going to be the sort of deep dive first look at Crucible, which I'm really excited to share. I think some of you are already looking forward to that based on what I showed last Friday. And then if you haven't heard of it or seen it yet, maybe I'll give you a tiny little tease today to try and entice people into watching tomorrow. And then on Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have our whole team gathered together for our Free Project Friday live event. So for those of you who don't know, Free Project Friday is a monthly event that we do within the team. It's usually sort of behind closed doors where we all tackle fun, aspirational hobby projects that are things that we're passionate about, things we'd really like to do that have something to do with Foundry VTT, but exactly what that is pretty negotiable. But yeah, we usually do Free Project Friday just within the team, but we are this time as part of our anniversary celebration, we are doing it live in front of you all. So it'll be, I think, a really nice time. Some folks are already started working on their Free Project Friday stuff, and so I've seen like some previews of things that are being worked on to showcase. I haven't started working on anything for mine yet, so mine might be a little bit more thrown together quickly, but yeah, that's going to be a really good time. So I hope that y'all stop by on Friday for that. I think that's going to be really great. And then later in the day on Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, we have a live stream over on the Paizo channel as part of the kickoff of PaizoCon, where Shane and Cora from our team, they're going to be chatting with Andrew White, and I'm not sure who else. I should probably know this, but I'm not sure exactly who else is on that panel. But it's going to be some folks from our team, some folks from Paizo, talking through all of the great stuff that we're making for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, showing off some products that have recently released, showing off some stuff, teasing some stuff that's coming up in the future, talking about the system, its ecosystem, and what's new, what's coming up. So that's going to be a really exciting stream as part of PaizoCon. So there's still a lot going on as part of our anniversary week celebration. It feels like we've been doing a ton. We had a really great AMA on Reddit yesterday, on the Foundry VTT subreddit. So I would encourage any of you who are maybe interested in that to head over there to that subreddit and check out the AMA post, which I think it's still pinned, so it's still at the top. And so there's just a ton of really great, almost 300 comments on that post. So questions and answers from the community. We're not still actively answering them, but there's just a lot of really great stuff here. So if you're curious about, learn more about Foundry or what the team thinks about different things, check it out. Yeah, so that's everything that's, still going on there. And our sale is still ongoing, so the software itself is on sale for 20% off, as well as also House Divided and Demon Queen Awakens are all 20% off until 10 p.m. Eastern on Monday. So yeah, really exciting all around. But what we are, I think, all here for is the V11 release celebration, and that's what our team's been working really hard on for many months now, and yeah, really pleased to have it getting to the point where we can release it as stable. And as I said before, that's expected later today, unless we have to, find any reason not to. But I think it's going to be good. I think we're confident. It's just we only get one chance to release the first stable build, and we want to make sure that everyone has a great experience with it. So thanks for your patience and understanding there. But that will be coming out later in the day, we hope. So yeah, I'm thinking to maybe spend the stream today going through like a survey of some of the big things that V11 does, talking about features, talking about ways we approach certain problems, answer questions from y'all in chat. If you have any questions, please just drop them in chat with like a question prefix. That helps me kind of pick out easily when I like glance down, helps me pick out which are the questions versus like which are just people chatting. Yeah, I'll answer as many questions as I can, kind of go through what we've done in V11 and do some of those giveaways as well. So that's the plan. Let me see if there's any questions that have been posted before I jump into just the V11 overview. No, it doesn't look like it. Cool. I'm just going to go ahead and jump straight in. Yeah, thank you everyone wishing us the Twitch affiliate anniversary. I got an email from Twitch last week that was like, oh yeah, it's your affiliate anniversary. You can pick one day to have it be like announced on your channel or something like that. And so I picked today since it was our V11 release. It felt like the best day for that. So that's why Twitch is harassing you all about it being our stream anniversary or something. Yes, Dobolo Dench, you've done it exactly correctly. Well done to you. 10 of 10 comprehension of the instructions. Encyclopedia asks, House Divided actual play, when bringing that gem back? I don't know. I need to chat with the players. I was really enjoying it for the episodes we did. I think it was really great role play, and obviously I'm very proud of the adventure content itself. There were a couple of speed bumps that happened, as you may or may not be aware, early in the year when we were doing that stream, that those speed bumps kind of derailed the train just a little bit, and whether we can get that back going or not, we'll see. There was a little bit of turbulence that, that caused us to pump the brakes a little bit for a while. And I don't know. I'm interested. I obviously love the adventure, and I would really love to run through it all the way in full. But we do have an awful lot going on, and now that the moment has kind of... It's not that the moment has passed, but there's just new priorities. There's new projects. It's like now I'm all focused on like how do we get Crucible to playtest ready, and there's another big project we have going on. It's like I'm quite involved in that, and so the question is like, is there enough time to to reboot the House Divided stream? I don't know. We'll see. I'd love to, because I'm very, very fond of this adventure. I think it's excellent, and I would love to play all the way through it on stream rather than just the first bit. But yeah, it's a good question. I think it's something I'd like to do. Evil CJ asks, what is the new feature that I'm most excited about? I think it's hard for me to just pick one, because there's so many things in this update that I really love. But I think the improved data model and the handling of unlinked tokens is something that's just a huge weight off my mind, to have that handled better. That's a little bit of like a nerdy sort of technical answer, and then I think more of a fun sort of player-facing answer in terms of like as a user, as a GM or user of the software. I really love the new threshold walls and the way that they handle windows. So I can go ahead and like talk about that briefly, because some of you may or may not know what I mean by that. Let's see. I'll just pick a scene that has some good window stuff going on. Yeah, so here, like in this attic scene, let me grab a token and give him some vision. Yeah, we'll do like, make him slightly smaller, give him some vision. So here, this character, right, is kind of walking down towards the room here, and we open the door, and let's see if this comes through on stream. Hey, check out those door sounds. Hope you all caught that. I'll just open and shut the door one or two more times. Door sounds. Yeah. Oh, it was too loud, you said. Okay, let me... I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to blast anyone off of the face of the earth. And then I proceeded to do it like 3 or 4 more times. Yep, there you go. Sorry. Hopefully that's better. Yeah, anyways, door sounds. That's a key new V11 feature, but not the one that I was using to answer the question. It's windows that I'm really excited about. So over here at the far end of the room, there's these like windows out onto the roof. And from this perspective, what you see is this character can't see out of those windows. He's too far away. He's all the way across the room, 20 feet away. You're not like looking out the window and really appreciating what's out there at this moment. But you'll notice that as the token approaches towards the window, we will... Oh, I need to give him some vision. Sorry about that. There's no light outside. As we move towards the window, we suddenly begin to have the opportunity to see out of it. So as you walk up to these windows, you can suddenly like look out and see what's outside, but you're not sort of distracted by that full that full visual scope when you're maybe like over here by the bookshelf. And so it's a really nice way to handle sort of thresholds and things that give a lot more just kind of immersion to the experience, where you're not like seeing out like this window over here, you're not seeing out of it onto the roof when you're here in the hallway. You have to kind of walk up to the window in order to start appreciating what you're seeing beyond. And so, that's something that I really enjoy as a GM and as a player, because I think it makes me feel a lot better about having all these windows in the scene instead of just covering them up with regular walls or something like that. So that's my answer to that question. But yeah, so those are some of the V11 features already that I've just had a chance to preview, what with door sounds and what with proximity walls, things like that. Question from KO'd about this feature: do the windows care about the elevation of objects outside? They don't currently. So currently we have a sort of fairly flat canvas in terms of the extent to which it considers vertical elevation. Now there are of course features where you can change the elevation of your token, like you can say, oh, I'm up 20 feet off of the floor right now, but that is more sort of, there are some mechanical implications of it in terms of like the height of overhead tiles and whether you're above or below it, things like that, but we don't have kind of a full end-to-end framework for handling scene levels and verticality yet. That is a feature that we hope and plan to do in the future. In fact, we internally call it scene levels, and the scene levels feature, if and when we do that, would be sort of a much more rigorous handling of elevation of all sorts of types of objects, where we might start to have more three-dimensionality to, like, oh yeah, when you're looking out the window, the object that you see outside the window, is it, what's its height or what's its position relative to, to ground level where you are. So no, it doesn't have that kind of nuance yet, but it is something that we'd like to do in the future. A question from BT Bias about, will there be a default config for the windows so that this can be enabled by default? Sort of, yeah. So basically the way that it works right now is that there's a new tool on the walls palette for window walls. And so basically there's kind of a preset configuration of like what a window might be like, that when you place a window wall, you kind of get that preset configuration as your default behavior. And then if you want to tweak it to change some aspect of it, you can. But these windows that I've been showing right here, these are just kind of like the default setup for what a window wall tool makes for you. You can of course customize it further in order to further tweak some aspects of it. But yeah, there's an easy tool so you can easily create and place walls of that type. It's just this one right here, and then any wall you create of that type will behave like this. Question from Inil, can the window wall be combined with doors to allow it to be closed? Yeah, so if you'll notice that what makes this wall a window is sort of technically when you have the wall configuration open, what makes it a window is that it uses what's called the proximity restriction type. So there's different restriction types that affect like how does light travel through this wall. And what proximity means is that light only travels through the wall, or sight only travels through the wall when it's close to the wall. So for example, suppose I make a red light source here. My red light source is only going to start shining through the window when it gets close to the window. But when the light source is further away from the window, even though the window is still within the light source radius, the light isn't going through because the origin point of the light is not close enough to the window. So this is kind of what the proximity wall is doing mechanically, is it's requiring the origin point to be close enough to the window in order for it to start going through. So that's a quick aside. That's what makes it a window wall. But that's just the restriction type. Any wall, regardless of its restriction type, can be configured as a door. So we can make this window also a door, and then there's an icon on the proximity wall that it will still behave like it did when I just showed this to you, but there's also going to be an icon here. Now, when it's open, the proximity limitation goes away. So if the window is open like this, you'll notice like I'm seeing all the way through the window without needing to be close to it. And if it's closed like this, then the proximity is enforced and I only get to see through when I walk up to it. So that's the way that those two features interact in terms of the way that is it a door, is it open or not, interacts with whether it has a proximity threshold restriction or not. It's a little bit of a technical answer. Sorry if I lost anyone on that. It is a little bit, there's many different ways that walls can be configured. Like there's many combinations of features that can kind of produce different effects. So hopefully that was clear. Question from Evil CJ, what feature gave you the most... Evil, I'm answering all your questions today. What feature gave you the most trouble to figure out? I think there were some very finicky aspects of improving upon the unlinked token experience that were particularly tricky for the team and I to solve. Some aspects of that had to do with the LevelDB database migration. Some aspects of that had to do with just our ability to really rigorously and formally solve the unlinked token problem. But that was probably the hardest thing that we did in this release. Mute Foxy says, you must have two clients open. We're hearing the door sounds twice, and the second client is loud. I'm not sure about that. I only have two audio sources right now, so I don't. Oh, maybe it's feeding back into my mic. It might be. It shouldn't be, but yeah. Okay. I'll adjust that a little bit by moving my mic position and turning its sensitivity a bit. Sorry, but thanks for mentioning that. Question from Zandaref, is the levels thing an option for Patreon feature vote? It might be, yeah. We'll put anything, and this is going to be coming up once V11 stable is out. We'll get the Patreon feature vote for V12 up. Anything that could be on the ballot for V12, as long as it's things that we feel like confident, like we can do them, and that they could be a good, they could be a good feature for us to focus on. Like anything like that kind of satisfies those criteria. We will certainly have on that Patreon vote as an option for people to choose from. Yeah, Nat says the Twitch stream isn't really doing any favors for how like buttery smooth the Canvas performance is, but yeah, we made some really significant performance improvements in V11 that. Obviously I am running on a powerful computer, and so it's not necessarily like representative of the experience that everybody will have, but I do think that the performance of vision, lighting, animation, all of it is really smooth right now, and I think that you're all going to really love how how much those performance improvements are noticeable. All right, I'm going to scroll past chat. I'm going to skip over some things and kind of scroll back up to current. So I apologize to folks who I've just skipped over your questions, but please feel free to to ask them again. Question from Claude Kenny LOL. Claude Kenny LOL asks about more detail about how unlinked tokens are, quote, resolved and what that means, especially for, say, module developers. So basically what it means for module developers is that you really shouldn't have to do anything special to work around unlinked synthetic actor tokens versus, linked tokens. Like you should be able to just kind of treat all actors as actors and not have to worry about whether it's type A or type B. The point of doing this is honestly that it should make it to where to where module developers really don't need to do much at all in terms of, what sort of special handling you need to do to work with. So there were previously some kind of wonky edge cases where you would have to do certain things in a very particular way, like if it's a synthetic actor versus like if it's not. Those edge cases and those needs for special handling, they just kind of go away with this update, and everything kind of just works in the same way that you would hopefully expect it to. Asmodia asks, can you define an unlinked token? Yeah, so that's a great question, because there's many of you who may, not necessarily know so much about Foundry VTT. So consider like a named character, like Usk here. Usk is a named character. There's only one of Usk. He is his only self. There's not, well, I mean, narratively speaking, that's not entirely true. Let's use a different example. Let's use Bicilla here. There's only one of her, so she is a named actor. She's linked. Her token is linked to the actor. So what that means is on her actor sheet, when we say open the actor sheet and take away half her hit points, that applies immediately to her token as well. And so any changes to the token likewise apply to the actor sheet. Everything is linked. The token is the actor and the actor is the token. They are one and the same. And there's sort of only one of this. Now that isn't true for all tokens. And the way that Foundry handles that is you can imagine something like so we've got a hobgoblin, for example. We can have many hobgoblins, not just one. There's not only one hobgoblin in our universe. And so when we place a hobgoblin token, the hobgoblin token is unlinked. It's not linked to actor data. And what that means is that changes to, say, the hobgoblin's health, as it takes 5 points of damage, those changes don't apply back to the base actor. And when we place another hobgoblin, it's sort of a different hobgoblin. This one has full health. This full health hobgoblin could have a higher strength score of 16. This lower health hobgoblin could be very charismatic. They can be different, and they have those different data sources that allow them to override and adjust the base actor. So that's what it means for a token to be unlinked, is like these hobgoblins are unlinked from their base actor. And technically under the hood, that's required some very tricky code to make that all work properly and efficiently. And so what the big innovation is in V11 is that performs much better and much more reliably, both for the core software as well as for module developers who are working on top of it. A question from Myriadis asks, what are some cool end user features that you're excited to have implemented in the future? That's a big and open-ended question. I might punt a little bit on it because I kind of want to stay focused on what we have done in V11 for this stream, but there are a lot of features that I'm very, very excited about for us to do in the future, and I think that you'll see many of them on the Patreon poll when that gets posted up. You'll see many of them. I'm not shy about saying how much I want us to get done, event triggers or scene levels or some of these other things. There's a lot that I would love for us to get to. But I think I'll mostly keep this stream focused on what we did do in V11. Question from Mute Foxy: is there a way to close a window so that it goes back to acting like a normal wall? Sort of. So what can be done there, Mute Foxy, is you can change the window. Let's see, where was I doing this? That was in the attic. You can change the window back to be a normal wall if you want to sort of temporarily suppress that, and that could be done with a macro. So say you wanted to temporarily disable the window feature, you can just change these restrictions back to normal, and that has removed the window, at least temporarily. And then if you change them back to proximity, you can add the window back. That's obviously requires a little bit of clicking around to do it, but you could make a macro that does that toggle if you wanted to, but there isn't a door icon that does that switch for you. Question from Renderance Plays: have wildcard tokens been improved in any way? Yeah, so wildcard tokens, I think there's sort of two different use cases for something like a wildcard token. So let me, for example, I'll use the, I think there's an actor in this adventure that uses wildcards, should be satyrs, I think. Or actually maybe we have different, no, maybe they're not using wildcards. Maybe we have different stat blocks for different satyr types. But anyways, I could imagine configuring this satyr to use wildcard tokens instead. So satyr star dot webp, and I could set it as a wildcard. So when I do that, and then I place, different versions of the satyr, I'm getting different looks, different satyr varieties. And when I right click on any of them, I can see in their appearance that I have this drop down to choose from which variety do I want. Now there's two sort of different use cases, and the one that we currently handle is the use case of I just want a random one. But there is a different use case of I'd like a way to easily toggle back and forth between, two in a more sort of controlled way. And I think the current interface for wildcard tokens does allow that, because you have access to the other varieties in your dropdown. You can very quickly, make that sort of change. But I don't think it's necessarily as good as it could be for supporting here's my look A, here's my look B. There's probably some things there that we could do that would continue to improve upon that functionality. It's not something that we did anything specific for in V11. Question from Cryptwrite: for the future, will there be room for companion apps to have access to Foundry via their own port connection? Yeah, maybe something like that. It is technically possible for an external app to connect and authenticate with Foundry using the WebSocket. That's how, for example, Cody's external dice integration works with the dice rolling app that GoDice developed. So there's some things that are already possible in terms of an external app can connect to a running Foundry server and authenticate using a WebSocket connection. So there's already development opportunities out there for those sorts of companion apps to exist. It is kind of technically already possible. All right, so let me talk about some other overview of V11 features. I just sort of got, distracted in a good way, just sort of answering questions and talking with y'all about questions. But let me get back to some of the structure of this stream and talk through a little bit what's on the docket for V11. What are some things that V11 does? And I'll take more questions as we go. So firstly, V11, like Nath said, it's expected to release shortly after the stream today is done. The team's just doing some final rounds of testing right now, final pre-launch checklist, if you will. And so what to expect when that comes out? Well, firstly, let me say, you do not have to update. You don't have to update now. You don't have to update tomorrow. You don't have to update ever. Please remember that Foundry VTT is a self-hosted software. You install whatever version of it you want. One thing to know about Foundry updates is, when you move forward, there generally is no going back. Now, there's things you can do. You can take a backup of your data so that if you decide you change your mind, I don't want to move forward, I want to stay where I am, you should have a backup of your data so that you can go back. But going back is not always easy. You have to give some things up too. And so just want to really encourage everyone to not feel like you have to go install it immediately. up to you, but you don't have to. And there are very valid reasons to stay exactly where you are if you have a working setup that works for you and everything's great and you don't want to rock the boat. I encourage you to stay where you are until you really feel like, I kind of want to lean in and check out the new version. That being said, if you do want to update, V11 is designed specifically to be pretty compatible and stable with V10. It's nowhere near as dramatic a change from V10 as, say, V10 was from V9. It's a much less of a step to take. There are some things that do change about it, though, and so you shouldn't just assume that it's going to be a completely seamless transition. If you do want to update, there on our release notes, there is a section that has some step-by-step suggestions about what process to follow. So that process is start by backing up your data so that you have a backup in case you need to go backwards. Make sure to capture that backup first. Then you can uninstall and install the new release. You can't do it through the in-app updater because this requires a new Electron build version, so you have to install it from like the installer this time. But that's fine, that's not a big deal. You just download that new installer from the website and install it, and that gets you V11. When you first launch V11, one of the things that you'll want to be sure to do, I'll go back to the setup screen here. Well, the first thing you'll want to do is just appreciate how beautiful the new setup screen is. But after you take a moment to do that, then the next thing you're going to want to do is to check for system and module updates that you can get that might bring your game systems up to date or might bring some of your modules up to date. Check for updates to see if there's any updates you can get. Then when you go to launch a world, you're going to see a dialog like this, which says world data migration required, which means like you haven't loaded this world in the new version yet. And so, by launching it, you agree that you are going to like migrate your world data to that new version, and that's going to be the new version that this world requires. This is why you need to have a backup, because when you do this world migration process, you can't undo it. So if you want to have the data backed up before you did this migration, you need to save that back up yourself. So suppose I migrate my Demon Queen world. Oh, here's an example of our new optional sort of minimalist join UI. You have a choice now to choose for each world between whether you want the more the normal join screen UI or whether you want this really minimal version. This is sort of the minimal version of what the join screen can look like now. But yeah, so once that's all been done and your world has been migrated to the new version, everything should just work. This Demon Queen Awakens world was something that was last played back in V10 or V9. Everything's looks good. Everything's probably gonna be working. I've got no errors in the console. Life is good. I can then start one by one. I can start choosing which modules do I want to re-enable. One of the things that you should note is when your world got migrated to this new version, it just automatically disables your modules, basically for your own protection, to make sure that the world is working properly before those modules get turned back on. So once you've migrated to the new version, you can go back through and say, oh, I want, tokens and dice and sequencer. It is probably a good idea to turn on just a couple modules at a time rather than go and turn on tons of them, because that way if there are any modules that aren't working well in V11 yet or aren't compatible, if you just enable one or two modules at a time, then you'll be able to test and make sure that those modules are working well for you before moving on. So we do recommend taking it step by step when you're moving back from V10 to V11. Enable a module couple at a time and make sure they're doing okay. Now, if for whatever reason this isn't going to work out for you and you can't, V11's no good, we've got to go back to V10, the process that you would follow is that you would reinstall V10, you would restore your backed up data, and then you're back to where you were. You're back to where you needed to be on V10. So there's a really handy guide on our patch notes, this video from Matt about how to do your backup. helps you understand like how to take a backup, how to restore from backup. It can be helpful, but really what you'll want to do is just take that backup before updating. Please do that. Do that for yourself. You will not regret it. There's really very little downside. Let me see if I can take some questions real quick. Nocturnal asks, are jQuery's days numbered? I think so. Yeah, I think jQuery's days are numbered. We've been minimizing and reducing our usage on it piece by piece. It's not fully gone yet, but I think someday it will be. Let's see. Ian prays to the update gods that his module is already compatible. I've been using it, Ian. I've been using it, no problem. I just had it on just now, actually, when I was doing the, showing off this house divided stuff. I have your module enabled, and it's working just fine. Yeah, I don't think you'll need to change anything. Ian, you might decide to mark it as compatible because it says right now that it's just compatible with 10. But aside from maybe making an update on the website to say that your module is compatible with 11, there's probably not anything that you need to do. Question from Revelo Waldo. Nice setup screen. Lots of warnings about D&D 5e being out of date. Can we expect a timely V11 update for this first-party system? Yeah, we have. There's a V11 update version that's basically ready to go. There's a branch on the D&D repo, and it's just getting some final testing. And I don't know exactly when that system update is going to go out, but we did update Simple World Building. So that I just got the 080 update for Simple World Building just there. And then for D&D 5e, I have it locked, so I'll have to unlock it. I think... Yeah, so it's not out yet, but 2.20 for D&D is going to be available soon. I don't know if it'll be today or tomorrow, but I will tell you that 2.15, which is the current V10 release of D&D 5e, it works fine with V11. So there will be a D&D 5e system update coming, but it's not necessary. The 2.15 release of D&D works just fine. At least in my experience, I should always say like your mileage may vary, but yeah. See you later, Ace. Thanks for hanging in there. And thank you for everyone wishing us a happy anniversary. That's very thoughtful of you, very kind. Sid Goblin asks, can we hide the sidebar with the news? I'm sorry, Sid. No. The news is here. This is an unfortunate UI tax if you feel that way. I don't feel that way, but if you feel that way, unfortunately, no. We think it's important to have a way to let people know. There's so many users of Foundry VTT that aren't necessarily part of our active like Discord community, and Discord has historically been the only way that we have for like getting announcements out to people. So being able to let people know, for example, like, oh, year in review, 3-year anniversary, that sounds interesting. What's going on with their year in review? Like, this just gives us a way to share with our user base the things that are relevant and important and things that we're doing. Anniversary event schedule, that's relevant to people. And unless someone's in our Discord, they don't really have a way to learn about that. And so allowing us to share this sort of news with them is something that we felt was really important and really the right thing to do. Revelo Waldo, follow-up question, is that indicative of the D&D 5e system not keeping up to date with the latest and most volatile features? Should it... I'm not sure what you mean by that. I think that maybe it sounds like what you're saying is, does that mean that D&D 5e isn't like having a day one launch that leans into using V11 features? I don't really think so, but I think you should view it in a different light, that interpret it as V11 is a relatively non-breaking release such that the V10 version of D&D is perfectly good. Mr. Vox asks, have there been improvements to the login screen, like allowing browsers to autofill login like players. No, well, yes, there have been improvements to the login screen. I'll go back and show you. So Demon Queen Awakens, as I showed, here's the minimal. This is like, there's a new minimal login view. The reason that this isn't autofillable is because this is a drop down rather than like a username text entry. And so browsers aren't going to autofill this drop down select for you. Browsers can store this password though, if you want them to store your password. The other thing is that you can choose by editing your world, which is the join theme that you want. So that was the minimal one. The default one is this one. So this is what it looks like on the non-minimal view, where you have like the description to the right, you have your little login widget, some game details, return to setup. So you can choose between like which login style you prefer, if you want like the more compact minimal one, or whether you want this one. So those are some key improvements that have been made to it. Question from Sweet Melancholy. Is it possible to edit setup and login screens with custom images? Custom images, no. We were hoping to get that in time for V11 release, but it did not make the cut. But I can show you some of our wonderful V11 setup themes. There's 3 of them. So this is the Foundry VTT theme. We have the Classic Fantasy theme, which is sort of more muted color palette, more muted tones. It's more of a sort of gritty, dark fantasy kind of look. And then we have the science fiction theme here, which is more for like future sci-fi games. And so this ability to choose between different Foundry themes is something that's inherent to our new CSS framework that we're debuting on the setup screen here in V11. And then this CSS framework will extend starting in V12 into the main game environment. And the ability to choose between different sort of themes or skins for like the way that Foundry looks and feels is going to be much easier in that environment. And so it's starting here with the setup theme, but that will be extending to other areas of the app in the future as well. And I think in the future that will probably involve giving you the ability to change the background image here. As you could see, when I switched to the, say, sci-fi theme, it did change the background image. So like the theme swap is using a different background image here, but that's sort of part of the theme CSS rather than, rather than something that's like you can choose your own image. That was something that we wanted to do, but it didn't make it in time. I'm afraid to say. All right, let's see. Question from Mooman. Will the configurable sidebar search fields allow searching journal pages titles? Show any journal entry that has pages matching the search. Yeah, so there's 2 things that we did there. And this is Cody's exciting work on improving search and filtering. So suppose we have a journal entry here like forgotten fonts is a page in this journal entry. Suppose I have full text search enabled. It looks like maybe that feature did not quite make it in the sidebar. I know that there's a feature that made it that, oh, maybe it's this one. Okay, yeah, so like submerged. I think the feature that made it is that the search, yeah, so the search inside the journal allows you to find pages that have some text in them. So like within this particular journal entry, we can see that, this page has the word rainwater. But I don't think we've added yet something that on the journal sidebar, we can search like inside all of the pages, although that is a nice suggestion that we might be able to explore for, further refinement. Let's see. I'm going to skip up to current. Sorry, I'm skipping over people's questions. Just takes me longer to answer them than I can, keep chat scrolled. Question from Soygims. Could you turn on some nice background music while you're logged in? Why, certainly, sir. Let me make sure not to blast you too much, but let me see what that volume's looking like. Seems pretty good to me. You guys tell me if it's audible but not too loud. Let me know. Let me know how it's doing for you. It's probably too quiet if you don't hear it at all. Oh, people are saying no sound, please. No. We're gonna do a little bit. We're gonna do a little bit of audio. It's good. It's good to have a little bit of background, just not too much. God, I hate this site. That you're too kind. My voice is many things. Currently, it's a little bit hoarse. I need my tea. Let's see here. I've got to click a button to approve something for the team real quick. Stream paused for a moment. Okay, button clicked. All right, let's see. Do I have any other questions, or should I go on, continue to talk about V11 features? Yes, that's correct. Jubal Ral, V11 is releasing today! Exclamation point. We hope. Question mark. Let's see. Question. Uncle Chicken Ham, during V11 preview stream, you mentioned working with the dev for Compendium folders module to aid transition to the new system. Did anything come from that? I wonder, we've kind of discussed with that module and developer in the past during earlier phases of development. And my impression from where we left that conversation is that they have everything they need to provide a migration, whether it will be right away or coming soon, everything they need to provide a migration from the old Compendium folders flag-based format to the new sort of official folders inside Compendium packs format that we now support. So I think that module update and therefore automatic migration for Compendium folders module will be coming. Exactly when it will be coming, I don't want to make any guarantees or promises on behalf of, some community developer that would then, I don't want to pile any pressure on them, but I think that it is, it's looking good, is my understanding. Harrison Stream, quick question. The other day during V11 launch stream, you mentioned that weather can be blocked by a roof or by masking. Yes, so the masking part is API only at the moment, in that it requires a module to set it. What we would like to do in the future is maybe make it like something where, like currently you can set like a fog of war image. We'd like to maybe make it to where you can set like a terrain mask image here in the scene configuration. That is another nice to have wish list feature that didn't quite make the cut of the release. So currently what works is that, like, of course, if you have a roof of a building like this one over here, I'm just gonna fly through the bushes. Like, if you have a roof of a building so that you're inside the building, the weather effect of these like swirling leaves, or I can make the weather effect something more dramatic like a rainstorm, the weather effect is masked out by the roof, like once you're inside the building. So that's one way that you can do in the UI, but the other way that uses the texture mask, that currently is an API only feature, not a UI enabled feature at this time. Xanderf says Compendium Folders has an update saying it's done at the moment. That's very cool. Awesome. Released yesterday. Love it. Huge props to our community developers for being so freaking awesome. Let's see. Question from Nocturnal. Will the journal UI for tables continue to improve? I'm glad it's in V11, but the MCE editor is still vastly superior. I'm not sure I agree with vastly. I think it's perhaps fair to say that the tiny MCE editor for tables is like a little bit more mature than the Prose Mirror one. I think that's probably fair, but I think vastly is a little bit of a matter of opinion. I've been working with the new tables editor myself, and I think it's been working well for me. But I guess my use cases with tables are fairly basic. But I think most users' use cases with tables are fairly basic. I don't think that's necessarily unusual. I think if you have non-basic use cases with tables, I think editing the raw HTML is a very acceptable option. But yeah, we may continue to improve it, but I don't want to promise anything more in V11 than what we've already done. Hexadecimal asks, from a DM user standpoint, what, if any, end user changes will we experience from the unlinked tokens, or is it almost entirely a background thing? It's almost entirely a background thing. So for end users, you really shouldn't notice anything. Like these house guards, these are unlinked tokens. You just continue to use them exactly as you have before. Nothing changes for you. You don't need to recreate them. You don't need to modify them. You don't need to reconnect them to use any new system. It's just underneath the hood. The way that they're working in the back end is now much more powerful. Let's talk a little bit about the database change. So this was really what enabled the Compendium, enabled the unlinked tokens feature to thrive the way that it has in the first place, is that we made a big step in V11 to move to a new database. Our application used to use this software called NEDB, and NEDB is a Node JavaScript package for providing a in-memory file system persisted database engine. And it's good, but it kind of it was maybe one of the more outdated pieces of technology that we use in Foundry VTT. I'd say in general, our software stack is very modern, and NEDB was maybe one of the less modern parts of it. And so in V11, we made the big step to switch our underlying database engine from NEDB to LevelDB. And this is a change that none of you have to worry about doing anything for it. It's entirely behind the scenes, but when you say load a new world in V11 for the first time, it's going to convert all of your data from NEDB files into LevelDB databases for you. So that first world launch, that first migration might take slightly longer than normal, not much really. And that migration is going to be swapping over your database files accordingly. There's a lot of really sort of technical advantages of the new database approach, and it's something that I'm especially proud of, and I think is a big mover in terms of moving our software forward and making it even better, that I'm very proud that we were able to accomplish. So I really look forward to, there's performance improvements, there's stability improvements, there's improvements for module developers, which will allow them to do bigger and better and more reliable things. And so I'm very excited about that. I want to highlight a feature that you all can think about using or choosing for yourself. On the setup menu in configuration, there's a new feature called delete migrated NEDB files. This defaults to off, disabled in V11, but if you wish to, you can enable it. What happens if this is off, which is the default behavior, is that your old NEDB files are kept around after the migration occurs as a sort of extra cautious safety measure, so that in case anything went wrong or in case you need to go back. Although there's other reasons why you can't always go back. So making sure to take a backup of your data before updating is the only correct way to do it. But this starts off as more of a safety measure, but what you will see happen as a result of this is that the utilization of Foundry VTT data storage on your hard disk will increase, because we then have the new LevelDB database, but also the old NEDB database that's no longer getting updated. So if you check this off and you enable it, what will happen is that those old NEDB files will be deleted. So that's something that you should consider, which of those settings is right for you. You can always change it later to delete them after you've not deleted them. And that's why it starts as disabled by default. Question from Storyweaver. Can we please have the ability to edit the new DB files for maintenance purposes? Yes and no. The new DB files are binary, and so you're not going to be able to just open them and have them be human readable. But there is a new CLI tool that we've provided, Foundry VTT CLI, which offers a number of command line utilities for packing and unpacking databases, and you can use this utility to unpack a database to either JSON or YAML files and then repack the database from those readable files. So if you want to have, say, like a step of your build pipeline, or if you need to unpack a DB for maintenance purposes, as you say, you can use this CLI tool to unpack the binary database and then repack it with any changes to those files that you've made. Paper or plastic? Not a question. Just want to give my appreciation to the Foundry VTT team and community. That is very kind of you to say. Thank you so much, Paper or Plastic. I really appreciate that, and the team does as well. We thrive on the support of our user community. YX2XY, question from someone not tech savvy. I've been bombarded lately with news about WebGPU and how it will replace WebGL. Will Foundry eventually benefit in any way from this new web thingy? Yeah, great question, actually. And we don't know the full extent of the answer to that yet, but our expectation is that eventually we will absolutely benefit from WebGPU. We are going to work on adopting it, although our adoption of WebGPU will also depend on adoption of the Pixie.js framework that we rely on pretty heavily. And the Pixie.js team is already hard at work looking at WebGPU and what that means going forward. And so, we're going to try and lean in pretty aggressively and be on the frontier of exploring that space if and when we can be. And so I do expect that the advent of WebGPU will continue to be, an elevation step change in the power that Foundry VTT has, and I'm very excited for that. Le Ratier Bretonian asks a question about systems with Compendium packs. Should you create a specific V11 release to keep both database files and systems? The recommended guidance for having a system or module that supports both V10 and V11 is to package that module or system for V10 with the NEDB files and allow V11 to auto-convert those NEDB files. So basically, like, if you want your module to jointly support 10 and 11, write your module for 10 and rely on V11 auto-converting those DB files for you. That's the easiest path there to take. Now, you can, of course, create like two different branches. You can create a different release, like here's the V10 release, here's the V11 release. That's also an option. Storyweaver asks, when will we get built-in backup functionality in Foundry VTT? I don't know. We'll consider that as well as many other potential features as part of our V11, slate of possibilities, and we'll see if that ends up being, sufficiently highly prioritized that we'll choose to do it or not. It could be a good choice. I mean, certainly, like, we spend a lot of time cautioning people, like, make backups, and so, given that we spend a lot of time telling people to make backups, we could add a feature to support that. Certainly it's possible. All right, I'm going to skip ahead back to current. All right, awesome. Hey, thank you for the sub, X Solaire. I really appreciate that. So yeah, we talked about the database engine, user experience improvements. We did a lot of stuff. I've shown a little bit of like the search improvements. Let me show some of the Compendium improvements. That's like probably the next big thing. So the user voted feature for this release was Compendium folders. So what this allows you to do is we can have folders in the Compendium sidebar. For example, I can make a folder for all the D&D stuff, and I can put like the D&D 5e SRD packs all in a certain folder in the Compendium sidebar. I could have subfolders, like if I wanted, say, a subfolder of actors, and I'll just put like, monsters in there, and I'll put the starter heroes in there. I could have, different organization schemes in your Compendium packs for just like you have in other sidebar directories, you can have that level of organization in your Compendium's sidebar as well. One thing you'll notice is that each Compendium pack in this sidebar also now has like a little bit of a more fancy UI with a background image that it can set as well. And that's another nice feature. So for example, like this audio pack has like the little music banner at the top, or this rules pack has the journal banner at the top. Roll tables has a certain look as well. And then there's also, of course, folders inside Compendium packs. Now, I shouldn't... Well, I'll just show this on this one. So like, for example, like we could have the Adventures folder inside the House Divided Adventures pack, and then I can put this, adventure inside that folder. Oh, it's locked. Yeah, so I think the ability to have, let me refresh here. The ability to have those folders inside the Compendium pack as well as in the Compendium sidebar is a really nice sort of UX improvement. Like Ian was saying, like, oh, do I need to update my music pack for V11? No, you don't need to, but if you wanted to have folders so that instead of having like atmosphere-dreary, atmosphere-emotional, if you wanted to have, and this is not my module, so I'm just going to make changes to it locally, but if you wanted to have something like atmospheres as a folder of the Compendium pack, you could have that, and then we could put like the dreary atmosphere and the emotional atmosphere. Like you could do more organization inside the Compendium pack as an example of things that V11 now enables. So better organization all around, both in your sidebar as well as in individual Compendium packs from that feature. No, Ian, the module will not be compatible with V10 if you add folders in V11. So you should wait to do that until you're ready for your module to be V11 plus only. So like I wouldn't do that like right away. I would say like once you get to a point where you feel like you don't really care to support V10 anymore, which however long that ends up being, but like once you're ready to be like V11 plus, then like adding this folder support would be like a good thing to do at that time. Yeah, so that's like a little preview of Compendium packs, developments for community developers. We've got a lot of API improvements in V11. We've got a new fun like user-facing module creator. This is something that will be really valuable to many of you. So I'll go back to the setup screen, go to add-on modules. This button at the top here, create module, you can now create a module directly in the setup screen without needing to do any fancy like programming or editing JSON files or anything like that. So I can say like, say I want to make a module to have some Compendium packs so that I can share actors across like multiple worlds. I could say like my shared actors module. I can make a module for that. I can say if I want to say like, oh, Atropos is the author, and I'm Atropos on Discord now with no fancy numbers because Discord is doing absolutely insane shit to make that change. You can fill in author info. I can add another author. On our Compendium packs, I can say like, oh, let's add like, actors. We'll add a compendium pack for my actors that I want to share across worlds. Say that this is of the actor type. Now, if you're adding a pack for actors, you need to do one of two things. You either need to say specifically which system is it for, or you need to add a relationship that tells you which system it is. I'm going to do the easier one and say this is for, say, D&D 5e. So then I can just create this module, and there I just did it all in the UI. Here on my modules tab, I have my module that I just made. Let's see, where is it? It's my shared actors module. It's right here. It's installed. So if I go back into the world where I just was, I can then enable my module that I just created. Here it is, my shared actors module. I'll just enable this module, and then I will have access to the actors compendium pack that I declared when I created that module. So here it is, actors from my shared modules. This is my compendium pack that is from that module I just created. I can say toggle the lock so that this compendium pack is unlocked, and I can start dumping some characters into it so that I can then use those characters in a different world. And so this makes it more user-friendly to create your own shared piece of shared content module, or even if it's people who are doing serious content development for Foundry, content creators, make it easier for them to create their new module. So that's what that's about. Let's see. Harrison says, I've been making great use of this feature. One thing that I definitely highlight that wasn't immediately apparent is that you can also right-click an existing module to edit it to regain access to this menu. Yes, that is a great point. If I go back to the setup menu, say I wanted to add another compendium pack later on, I can go back to my shared actors module, I can edit it again, and I can add another compendium pack. Say this time I want maybe items that I'm going to share across the different things in my world. I can add another compendium pack to the module. You can go back and add more later. I'm just going to delete this module because I don't actually need it, but that is the process that you would follow. Question from Trouble the Tribble. Can you drag a folder, e.g. with actors, directly into a compendium, not just drag one by one? Yes, you can do that. So if I say make, I guess now I suddenly wish I had not deleted that module, but I'll make a world level one that says my actors. I can, if this module is unlocked, I can drag the entire characters subfolder in, and since folders are now supported in the compendium pack, I can move the entire folder of content into the compendium pack. All right, yeah. So that's some aspects of the folder and compendium improvements that are really central to what we worked on very heavily in V11. I showed proximity walls. I showed door sounds. We have some new lighting effects which are pretty fun. So here, let me show you what some of those look like. I'll do a nice bright green light. We'll do the new revolving light animation. So I can have a light that revolves around in a cone, and I can adjust the angle of the cone, make it narrower or wider, and I can adjust the speed to make it revolve faster or slower. So revolving light is pretty cool, lets you do some fun things. I'll make this a unconstrained by walls, so it just applies everywhere. Yeah, so you can have this sort of rotating sort of siren type light here. And then if you want a faster sort of real sort of siren light, there is a separate animation for that called siren light, which is very fast. I guess photosensitivity warning. I'll turn it down to its lowest speed, where the siren light can be a very fast kind of whirling siren. So for a police car or a klaxon or something like that. Yeah, so that's a fun new lighting effect. In terms of other visual effects, there's some beautiful new weather effects. I don't know how well they'll come through on Twitch because of like stream compression, but let me turn on a couple of those. So if I turn on the, we'll first do rain. So there's a new basic rain effect. Might be a little hard to see on stream, but it looks really lovely and it looks more realistic. We've also got an improved rain storm, which is a much more intense sort of downpour of rain that's very, very pronounced, very prominent. It's a great new weather effect. We've got an updated fog effect where you can make your entire scene have this kind of very rich, swirling fog everywhere. Another really beautiful effect that you can do. And then we've got the new snow effect. So we had an old snow effect, but we have a new one that's updated that's much more beautiful, sort of snow flurries. It's much more realistic looking and much more visually appealing. And then lastly, but certainly not least, we've got the blizzard effect, which is a very intense swirling snowstorm that looks really beautiful and is a really amazing weather effect that you can apply to all of your scenes. So a couple great new visual effects improvements in V11 that you have to look forward to. Darksteel Spork asks, can you change the direction of those new weather effects or customize them in any other way? They do have parameters for customizing them that are exposed to the API only. So with a macro or with some module code, you could customize aspects of those weather effects appearances, but we did not build a like UI front end for configuring those weather effects as part of V11. That's something that we would like to do eventually, but we have not had the opportunity to do that yet. A question from Mooman, how is the performance with the new weather effects? So it's actually better, despite the fact that the weather effects are seemingly more sophisticated. Performance will actually be probably better because what we were doing previously for weather was a sprite emitter. So basically, like every raindrop was an emitted particle that was its own rendered texture. And so you're talking about like thousands of emitted particles to do like a big rain effect previously. Now the rain effect here is a full screen shader. So it's doing the entire weather effect as a single pass shader for the full screen. And as a consequence, especially if you have a WebGL2 compatible GPU, which Foundry requires anyways, the performance of these new weather effects is actually probably going to be better than the performance of the older effects that were using particle emitters. So it's sort of a win-win both in terms of their look as well as their performance. But I'm eager to get feedback from the user community about whether that theory ends up being actually true. I would say it shouldn't be worse. It might not necessarily be like noticeably better, but I would not expect these new weather effects to be worse than than what you had before. Question from the Tribble asks, are there any improvements to handling of alpha transparency for animated assets video? Yeah, so this was a big thing that we were working on right at the tail end of V11 development. We do have a change in this stable release specifically about video loading and processing and pre-multiplication and things like that. So it is a late breaking change in V11 stable. I don't know whether it solves all aspects of video alpha transparency and pre-multiplication, but I know that this is the first step towards that. It might be up to Secret Fire or Eberhard to comment on the extent to which that is fully addressed now. But yes, the Tribble, it's something that we've been working on. Question from Faye Umbra, is there a way to modify the fidelity of the weather effects? So this is what I was mentioning. It is possible via the API, not via the UI right now, but we have planned for the future that we would add a user interface layer for configuring this, but it's not something that we added for V11. But it is possible to do with the API, and so therefore you could do it in the console with a macro, or you could do it or a module could add an interface to configuring weather more fully. It's something that we want to do more of ourselves, though. We just couldn't do everything in V11. Question from Myriadis: Should it be easy for modules like FX Magic to port custom effects to the new system? I don't know about that. We haven't really changed the framework for how weather effects are defined. It still uses a weather effect subclass that can either be a particle emitter or a shader. So it shouldn't be easier or harder than it was in V10 for Token Magic to do that. All right, let's see. I think this is probably about a good point to take a little halfway break. And what I can do is take a quick AFK. I can go refill my tea for my throat. I can, when we get back from the AFK, I can do a giveaway so that y'all who are hanging out can get a chance to win some free stuff. And then once I'm back from the giveaway, maybe I'll just keep chatting about V11 and keep taking your questions, but I might show off a little Crucible tease while I'm at it to try and entice you all to join for the stream tomorrow to see more. So yeah, all you have to do to be eligible to win free stuff is just be here in Twitch, be logged in. You have to be logged in so that your username shows up in the chat list. But be here, be logged in, and your name will be automatically added into the roll table for the giveaway. So I'm gonna take maybe about 5-minute AFK to go do that. And when I get back, you will all be automatically entered to win some free stuff. And so please don't go anywhere. I will be back and we'll do that giveaway, and then I'll showcase some Crucible and just continue chatting with you all about V11. So don't go anywhere. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. Thank you all for waiting. Sorry I took a little minute longer there. Just getting the refill on tea. Man, I gotta keep myself healthy. We got too many more streams to go still this week. Can't fall apart yet. I can fall apart over the weekend maybe. All right, let's see. So I put together a giveaway table. So I got 376 of you who were logged into chat. That's amazing. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a couple of times. I'm going to offer to each winner a choice of, you can have a Foundry Virtual Tabletop software license. If you say don't have the software, or if you want an extra license to give to a friend, you can get a software license. You can get the House Divided Adventure, which is what I've been showing here with all these beautiful maps and creatures. I haven't really been showing off this adventure as well as I ought to. I should really sort of show, you know, some of the really amazing, like all the amazing character artwork that we have, music, maps, creatures, tokens. It's a really fully featured adventure for 5th edition. You can get that. You can get the Demon Queen Awakens adventure, also another adventure for 5th edition. Or I'll offer you the choice of early access to the Crucible playtest without being a Patreon member. Now, you might not know what that means, and therefore it might not be very appealing to you, but I'll make that an option for the giveaway as well. So your 4 choices are Foundry Software License, House Divided Adventure, Demon Queen Adventure, or access to the Crucible playtest. You can, if you are a winner, you can choose one of those 4 options. Yeah, and so I'm gonna go ahead and roll. I'll roll like 4 or 5 winners, and then if your name gets drawn, please respond in chat and let me know that you accept your prize, and let me know which one you would like. All right, here we go. The first result, Mr. Bones 2. Mr. Bones, numero dos. Let me reopen this, see if I can get it to animate the second time. Mr. Bones 2. Oh, interesting. My roll table animation is gone. I wonder if that's a new V11 bug. Either way, these are legitimate rolls, but I don't know why it's not animating. Xandaraf, Grumpy, and lastly, Torchcat. We've got Mr. Bones, Xandaraf, Grumpy, Torchcat. Oh, let's do 5. And Vizael. Mr. Bones, Xandaraf, Grumpy 765, Torchcat, or Vizael. Xandaraf wants the license. Well done to you, sir, or madame. Xandaraf. Oh, I didn't even say what you wanted. I need to type that too. Xandaraf, FVTT license. All right, let's see. Fastest giveaway in the West. Well, maybe some people aren't here, so we'll see if we have any AFKers, and then we'll roll again. Grumpy wants DQA, please. All right, awesome. Congratulations, Grumpy. Ah, I did it again. I didn't say what he actually wants. DQA. It's a shit show, folks. All right, let's see. Vizael accepts. Vizael, let us know which you would prefer. I wonder if Atropos has his animate roll tables for core setting disabled. Is that a setting? Is that even a setting? Animate roll tables disabled. Yeah, you're sure fucking right, I do. I didn't even know that was a setting. Okay, yes, I had that disabled. All right, settings are hard. All right, let's see. Vizael wants a software license. I don't know how this software works. Come on, give me a break. Let's see here. We're looking for Torchcat and Mr. Bones 02. Yeah, you're not wrong, real Rexa Liquid. Yeah, you're not wrong. Let's see, did I miss either of them? I'm looking for Torch Cat or... They both reacted in chat. Torch Cat said license. Oh, yeah. No, I'm blind. Yes, Torch Cat, I'm here. I accept software license. Got it. Torch Cat software license. Excellent. Congratulations to you. And then Mr. Bones. Oh, I don't know. Where was it? Where was it? Chat's moving on me. Yes, house divided for me, please. Got it. Awesome. Perfect. Well, congratulations to all of you for those winnings. And since I didn't get my table to animate the first time, let's just do one more. I want to have that sweet roulette animation. I'm feeling like one more winner is needed here. So let's go one more spin. There we go. There's that animation. We got EMMRV, IAMMRV. They probably all left now that they thought the giveaway was over. I am Mr. V, I think is probably what that is. I am Mr. V. If you are Mr. V, you misspelled Torque Cat. Well, I'll still know what I mean by that. That's okay. I am Mr. V. You have your choice of prizes. Let us know what you would like. In the meantime, a house divided, please. Awesome. I am Mr. V HD. Great choice. Great selections. Great prizes all around. Sorry to those of you who didn't win. We'll be doing more giveaway prizes tomorrow during the Crucible stream, although probably during the Crucible stream the prizes will be all access to Crucible rather than other things, but I'm sure we'll also have other prizes to give away on Friday during our team-wide Free Project Friday stream as well. Oh, that's the sound of the revel. Don't mind that, folks. That's just a bunch of Fae satyrs and centaurs all gorging themselves on some horrible stuff. Let's talk Crucible for a bit. And while I show Crucible, I'm not going to get too far into it because I want to save things for tomorrow. But while I talk Crucible, let's at the same time we can chat about V11. So I'm just gonna answer any questions that you all have. Oh yes, Spice King is being very helpful here. What I need to say to all of the prize winners is in order to claim your prize, you need to send me a direct message on Twitch and let me know what your username on the Foundry VTT website is. So send me a DM on Twitch and let me know who you are on the Foundry website so that I can issue those winning keys to you. Okay, and then from now on, I'm just going to spend the rest of the stream answering questions, and then if there's any time in between questions, I'll just sort of noodle around with this game system and show you all a little bit about what it is. Question, what tea did you get? It's like a Meyer lemon. It's just a lemon tea with a little bit of honey to help with my throat. Nothing too dramatic. Yes, it's very soothing. Monkey Bars says my Foundry conversion of Dungeon Crawl Classics Blades Against Death just went live today on Goodman. That's awesome. Congratulations on that launch. Hopefully I don't have to make many changes for V11. I would expect probably not, but no guarantees, but give it a try. Yeah, it's should be pretty compatible with V10. I wouldn't expect you to need to do much. So Crucible is a game system that we are developing in-house specifically for Foundry Virtual Tabletop. So let me pop open the system rules here. We'll go to Welcome to Crucible. Crucible is a game system. It's a tabletop role-playing system that's designed specifically for use on Foundry VTT as a digital platform. So it's doing some things that are unique as a system, that it is definitely strongly inspired by classical pen and paper mechanics, but it's also strongly inspired by some aspects of CRPGs or some aspects of things that mechanics and gameplay devices that really would work better in a software environment than in a pen and paper environment. So what Crucible is a system that it's a brand new game system. It is modern. It's innovative in its own ways. It does some things very uniquely. And I'll show you a couple of the things that it does. It has a very unique approach to character creation, is one of its first and most important cornerstones. It has a system that uses no character classes, but rather has sort of more freeform, both horizontal and vertical character progression in a sort of in a way that creates very consequential and interesting character development choices. So, for example, a character in Crucible would not have any predefined specific class that they can only advance according to that particular class, but they can progress their own skills and talents and attributes according to whatever they choose to, however they choose to progress. It's a fairly free-form leveling system, and it's anchored around a very robust talent tree-based system. So, for example, this character Arctis on the talent tree, actually, I haven't spent any talents on that character, so let me choose a character that has spent their talents. Here's a character who's a ranger type, archer type class. So we'll open their talent tree. This is the talent tree in Crucible. There's no class-based progression, but instead every character starts in the center of the web, and you can expand outward by investing into talents at all of these different talent nodes. So as you advance your character, you'll take, say, like archery training, and then maybe strike first, and then you'll take precision shot, and you'll work your way out to this edge of the talent tree, and you'll take the Arcane Archer signature talent, which changes the way that your character plays in a fairly meaningful way, or you could take any of these other signature talents from any of these other nodes that you build towards reaching. Now, for the Crucible playtest that we're releasing very soon, we're testing character levels 1 through 6, which uses the first tier of the talent tree. So what you're seeing here is tier 1 talents out to this outermost ring of what are called signature talents. The eventual talent tree for Crucible will encompass this entire 3-ring setup. So it's going to be very expansive when it's done, and we're already working on filling in the rest of the structure of the outer portions of the talent tree, but for the first playtest, it's restricted only to the inner tier. So what you see here is basically talents that progress out through about level 6. So yeah, it's freeform advancement in terms of, like, I didn't choose that I have to be like a ranger class for this character. I just made the character that I want to create. And Crucible also has a very interesting spellcasting system that is, I think, pretty unique and innovative. So I'll show you a little bit of how that works as well. Spellcraft is part of the talent tree, so if you want to be a spellcaster, you can progress by acquiring some spellcasting talents. Let's create... I reset the talents on some of these characters, so I'm just going to go through and take some talents real quick. We'll take like a lightning rune and the arrow gesture, and yeah, I'm just going to kind of skip ahead quickly through taking some good stuff to build a sort of spellcaster class here that I want to showcase a little bit. We'll take War Mage as the signature there. Let's see, 4 points left. I'll take some other runes. We'll take maybe the Frost rune, and Influence would be good if I can get to it. That's over here. So we'll do Counterspell and the Influence gesture. Okay, 1 point left. We'll do Kinesis. Why not? Cool. All right, so I just built a spellcaster character here. So I have all of these talents now in the character's sheet. I also have spells in the grimoire that I now have access to. Oh, I didn't confirm Kinesis. Let me... Oh, no, I have 1 talent left. No, I have 0 points remaining. Okay, interesting. I think there's a bug with that Kinesis talent, actually, now that I'm seeing it. I think I just bricked this character sheet. I sure did. Look up tags. Doesn't have the right rune tag. Okay, well... So much for that. I need to stay away from Kinesis for a minute and then fix that bug later today. It's about at this phase of development right now, so there's things that need... let's make a different character here. Same basic idea. I'm going to take many of the same talents. I'm just going to stay away from that one that's a little bit of a troublemaker. We'll take this. Yeah, where was I? Yeah, I need some presents for that. I think what I can do is... Maybe I can take this actor and I can just call the reset talents method. That will fix my issue. That way I can respec this character to do what I'd wanted to do. Yeah, but you get the idea in terms of like how the progression system works in terms of, and you know, sorry, I'm just kind of buying the same talent mix over and over here, but I'm just trying to make a sort of spellcaster build so that I can show you a little bit of how the magic system works. Let's see, I'll take Spirit and 1 point left. Let's do... Let's do like an Earth rune. Okay, so I have my talents here now. And I'll show you a little bit of how spellcasting works. So when you cast a spell in Crucible, suppose these two characters are fighting against each other. I don't know why, just let's pretend. Or I can, you know, maybe I'll use something that's a little bit more adversarial, like I'll pull out an Ogre Berserker here. Suppose we're fighting here. When casting a spell, Spellcraft is a sort of composed mechanic. So using the cast a spell action, you are composing a spell using a rune and a gesture that you know, as well as optionally an inflection that changes the way that the spell works in an additional way. So suppose I'll use the lightning rune and the arrow gesture, and I'll target this Ogre Berserker. When making my spell check, oh, here's some of the nice integrated animations with JB2A and Sequencer. This lightning bolt was resisted. Their voltaic arrow, rather, was resisted. Let's see what happens if I can get one to land. Yeah, there we go. So here's a hit. When the hit is confirmed, you get the nice sort of spell effect animation, all the automation in terms of resourcing being applied. But really the cool thing about the Spellcraft system is that you can compose your spells on the fly based on the Spellcraft components that you've learned through the talent tree. So if I were to, for example, go and swap Counterspell for, say, Inflection, Quicken, I can then cast this same spell with the Quicken inflection, and it will cost me more focus, but it will cost me less action. And so I can modify aspects of the spell by applying inflections at the point of Spellcraft. So this becomes like a quickened Voltaic touch. So there's a ton of combinatorics and flexibility and possibility in the Spellcraft system. But in order to keep casting spells, I probably have to try and survive whatever this Ogre Berserker is going to throw at me. So there's a lot of automation in the system in terms of, well, you know what? Instead of talking a bit, I said I was going to take questions. Let me pause for a moment. I'll intersperse the Crucible demo with some. Nath says leave something for tomorrow's stream. I have a lot to leave for tomorrow, Nath. You have no idea. Tomorrow's stream's probably going to be like 4 hours long. Um, let's see. Question. Will this VTT-based system have a comprehensive wiki document? Not at first, but eventually I do expect that the documentation for the system will be available somewhere online, not only in Foundry VTT. But at first, while things are kind of rapidly evolving, all of the rules documentation is in, is in the very lovely journal entries that are provided as part of the system. So all of the rules are going to be available to read and to use inside Foundry VTT. And then eventually they may show up on like an external website for like sort of always online reference. Question from Mute Foxy: how will you monetize this once it's released? We're planning to release this system for free to everybody. The only monetization plan might be that if it ends up being popular, we might eventually someday make content for it. And so it sort of depends. Like if the system ends up being popular, then we will make content for the system. And if we make content for the system, as in not just the base rules of the system, but if we make content, then we will probably charge for that content. Uh-oh. Woof. Yeah, that's going to hurt. Let's see. Question from Revelo Waldo. Is there a cap, or could I conceivably unlock everything with one character? There is a level limitation, Revelo Waldo. So currently as designed, you can advance in Crucible up to level 24. But at that point, you would no longer be able to progress further. Although over the course of playtesting, that may be adjusted. Let's see. Question from DJ Lulu. I see there are already NPC monsters you're demoing. Is there a plan to provide pre-built monsters? That one I am going to save for tomorrow, DJ Lulu, but the answer is yes. They're tools for building monsters that I'm very happy with. I think they make the process of creating creatures really elegant, and I look forward to demoing that. That's part of what's called the adversaries system, and I'll be going through the adversaries system tomorrow during the demo stream. Question from Myriadis: are you making Crucible with localization in mind? Yes, for the most part. There's some things that are easier to localize and some things that are harder, but all of the system code is made with localization from day one. So there's pre-built localization in all of the system stuff. Now, of course, some things like spell names need maybe some different formatting, but the way that those spell names are prepared is using a localized format string. So I think, hopefully you'll find that for folks who want to support localization, they'll be able to do some great stuff. But, it's going to be an evolving thing. I'm sure there's going to be some frictions we'll need to work out. Flamewave asks, is this going to be mainly grid-based or gridless? It's designed for grid-based play. So as you see here, like, for example, like when this ogre is its turn and wants to move, there's certain space you can move for free. Beyond that, it starts to cost action points. It's very grid-based in terms of things like movement, in terms of things like range. So consider, for example, like, suppose there's a bunch of characters bunched up. This ranger-type character, say, has like a fan of arrows AoE effect that I can place like a cone template. It's all grid-based, so like hitting these three characters with my fan of arrows and the autumn... all three missed. Very poor, Piotr. Yeah, all of that can be handled in a grid-based way. And the plan is, now we've been working on square grid at first, but the plan is to support both hex and square as viable gameplay options. All right, let me scroll down to current. Shark who acts like a man, all right, let me zoom back one. JB Huddleston. A lot of system questions, which is good. I mean, I hope that means you're all interested. Looks like an AP spend system. Is it turn-based or like a circular combat track? It is turn-based, but there is some wrinkles in the turn-based progression order. So for example, suppose I add all these characters to combat, and then I'll go back to start it. The turn order for a round of combat is not fixed. So let me turn my interface sounds down so you don't get boomed every time I advance the turn. Sorry about that. Yeah, so the turn order is not fixed. So within a round of combat, there is a fixed turn order. But between rounds, like when we get to the top of the next round, for example, you'll notice that the order of combatants has changed. And that's because your initiative evolves each round to round. So you have a sort of fixed turn order within the round, and then the order changes with each round of combat in a way that depends on some rules of the system that I'll talk about more tomorrow. Shark asks, are attack roll, damage roll, and damage application automated end-to-end? Yes. Well, yes and no. They are, I would say, effectively automated end-to-end, but there is one intentionally placed human checkpoint. So, for example, suppose this... I'm trying to think of like what's a good way to demo it. This spellcaster that I gave has this like on critical effect that happens if they crit with a spell. So suppose I like stack up this character's attack so that they have a really kind of like powerful maximum boons. So here's a thing that I can comment on quickly. All of the dice rolling in Crucible uses a dice pool, where the dice pool is 3d8 at its starting point, and then that dice pool is modified by what you call boons and banes, which are situational bonuses or malices that affect the sort of situational aspect of whatever you happen to be doing. Some of those boons and banes are fully automated. Some of them are more like for the GM to just kind of ad-lib and say, oh, you did a great job role-playing that, take a boon on your next attack roll, or, you know, the GM kind of interpreting the situation and manually awarding a certain number of boons or banes. Now, when you add boons to a roll, the die in the pool upgrade. So your D8s become a D10 and then a D12 and so on. And if you add banes to the pool, then your D8s become a D6 or a D4. So I'm going to stack up this lightning attack with maximum boons so that it probably is going to crit. Let me show you what automation happens. So the attack roll's made. We've already determined that we've hit. We've already determined that it's a crit. I kind of rigged it to be because I gave 6 boons. Now what hasn't happened is that damage hasn't been automatically applied yet. The spell effect hasn't triggered yet. There's what's called a confirmation step for the GM, where once an action is played, there's a one-click button that the GM can do to say, yep, you played that correctly, that's right, we're going to apply this. So when the GM clicks confirm, the spell animation plays, damage is applied, active effects like the shocked condition that triggered on critical, they all apply. And if for whatever reason that was incorrect, I can then reverse it and I can undo it. I can remove the condition, I can remove the damage. So it's not 100% automated, but it's, I would say, 95% automated, and then the GM has to click a button to confirm that the action has played correctly. All right, I'm going to skip ahead to current. Yeah, it's fun to just reverse and play the attack. And it's like, oh, I'm just playing now. I'm just shocking this ogre over and over. Poor guy. Is there a max stack for boons and banes? Yes, they cap out at 6, and then if you have more than 4 of both, then they start counteracting each other. So for example, like if I go up to 6 boons, then my dice pool is maxed out at all D12s. But if I were to start adding banes, the banes start counteracting my boons, and they kind of meet in the middle. But maximum of 6 to each. Oops, didn't mean to cast it. Question, any plans on improving the encounter page? It's currently not very easy to browse various encounters if they're planned pre-game. I think Mute Foxy means the combat encounters. Yeah, so like if you have, say, like there's this encounter and then down here we've got like a second encounter that's going on, or like going on a different scene, it's a little bit clunky to like sort of like swap back and forth between different encounters. Maybe some of those encounters have been pre-planned, maybe some of them haven't been. Certainly, yeah, I agree. It's a little bit awkward, and I think further improvements to that, like multi-encounter combat tracking, is certainly something that I hope that we'll do in the future. That's more of a Foundry core thing, but it's always something that can be improved in the say Crucible game system. I'm gonna heal up my ogre friend here because I feel bad that I was just shocking them over and over. Let's give you a nice healing spell, Mr. Ogre. Oh, for 1 point of healing. That's very sad. Why was it only 1? I'll have to look into that. That doesn't seem right. There's still bugs. The system's still very new. We've been working on it in the background for a while, and I'm very proud of how it's come together, but it is certainly still a quite new thing. Let me show you a couple other like character approaches. So here's, for example, like a monk style character. You can see that like the progression through the talent tree can look quite different for different builds. So like where the spellcaster was all kind of progressing up to the top right, this is a character that would play sort of like an unarmed martial artist. And, it looks and feels quite different on the talent tree. Or here's like a character that's sort of a berserker style barbarian, where they're focused down in this kind of bottom left strength and toughness quadrant. So you can see how like you can kind of create any sort of character that you want, but there are limitations in place in terms of progressing your attributes and ability scores in order to support the build that you're wanting to have. Yeah, thanks. It's folks saying nice things. Let me see if there's any questions I can answer. Doesn't have to be about Crucible. I'm going to get mostly into those tomorrow, but just want to see if there's any questions about V10, or sorry, V11 rather. I don't even lose track of what version we're releasing, I guess. V11. Question, is there plans for customizability of the talent tree? Yeah, so one cool thing, and I'll talk more about this tomorrow, the talent tree is populated from a certain talents compendium pack. So the talents that are in the tree are sourced from a certain location. And so if you wanted to, for your homebrew, or for, to have like more of like a modern style or sci-fi style implementation of the game system, we could basically like duplicate this talents compendium, and then we could change it. And then we could tell the system, use my homebrew talents compendium. And when you do that, the whole talent tree will be populated with your choices of your talents that you want to have, rather than what comes in core. And I think that is going to be really exciting for people who want, like, I really like Crucible, I like the system, I like the way that it plays, but I kind of want to make my own talents. I want to make my own rules. It's pretty fun to be able to do that. Question, so with Crucible, how long do you think it will take to take down WotC? I think that's punching above our weight, sir. I appreciate your optimism in asking the question, but yeah, I think that's a bit aiming a bit high, I think. When's V12 coming, and tangentially what's on the horizon for it? So we're going to start with having a Patreon feature poll to collect input from our Patreon members about what they would like to see us do most in V12. And then once we've locked in the result of the V12 feature poll, we will choose some features ourselves of things that we really would like to, see happen. And then we'll put together that V12 plan, and I expect that it'll probably be like towards the end of the year that V12 would be then completed with development and ready for release. So probably like towards the end of 2023, I would expect. Question, how much support does Crucible offer in non-combat situations? That's a great question. Currently for the first Patreon playtest, not a whole lot. There are, of course, rules for out-of-combat social and exploration play. But there's some more fully fledged systems there that are intended to be added for future rounds of the playtesting process. So the Patreon playtest that will be available is a little bit more combat centric, and then the second or third playtest will dive a little bit more into some of the exploration and social encounter mechanisms that we have in mind. Yeah, so for folks who missed the stream, the VOD will be certainly available immediately on Twitch and then followed shortly thereafter on YouTube once we get it uploaded for folks to watch on YouTube. I'll wait for some more questions to come in, and while I do that, I'll make sort of a dual-wield rogue type character here. Question from Maximus. In the past, a motivation for relative lack of automation in the Foundry 5e system was statements like vision to keep it as close to the pen and paper as possible. Seems like your stance has changed. Well, I think there's multiple sides to it. I think that in some senses my stance has changed a little bit, but in some stances I think it's just that I don't think that 5e lends itself very well towards automation. I think there's a lot of sort of exceptions and special cases that aren't necessarily particularly well handled. And I think that a consequence of that is that while it's possible to automate things more in 5e, I think it is difficult to do, and it that difficulty can involve a certain amount of frustration at times. And so I think that, I think that it's not so much that my stance has changed, but I think that it's not a system that's designed really with the intention of automation, in its construction in terms of the way that the mechanics work or the way that things are handled. And so you are kind of fighting against it sometimes. And I think for that reason, I think D&D is a pen and paper game. It's a game that's designed for pen and paper, and a virtualization of that game is a conversion of its original format. Whereas something like Crucible is not a conversion of a pen and paper game. It's a game that's designed to be played in a virtual environment, and therefore, the sort of structure and assumptions behind it are a little bit different, and there's a certain, difference in terms of the way that it supports that. But, I guess maybe it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. Ian asks, any plans for House Divided conversions to other systems? Not House Divided right now, but I expect that might be coming in the near term future. I think it's something we'd like to do. Yeah. Question, will the GM in Crucible be called the Fate Right? I don't know. I like that. That's a nice name. I feel like there's a reference there that I should be getting, and I feel like put under pressure of being live on stream, me not getting that reference is probably embarrassing somehow. It sounds like something I recognize from something, but I can't quite place it. What is Fate Right from? Or is that an original invention? When will this be available? Probably not tomorrow. The stream tomorrow is going to showcase it in fairly comprehensive depth. I think the playtest will be available this weekend. Mute Foxy asks about building NPCs. I will get into that tomorrow, but I will just give a quick tease. So if you look at my Ogre Berserker here and you see their attributes, there's a really fun thing in Crucible where I can adjust the power level of the creature very easily, and you can very easily tune the difficulty of your encounter and your character and your creatures to the needs of your storytelling. And I'll talk more about how that works tomorrow. There's a lot that goes into that, but it's easier than you think. And the system, the way that NPC character building in Crucible works, it's designed to make that very easy to support. You'll learn more about that tomorrow, I think. Question, is there an existing module or feature in V10 to V11 to have pre-built outcomes for combat conversations from which DMs can select to help track player decisions? It's an interesting question. I don't think so, based on the way that I read that question. I think I'm not thinking of anything specifically that sounds like that, but it's an interesting train of thought that sounds potentially useful. Let's see here. Should be called the crypt, right? Question from Shark. With this being a Vitterpig, will the design of abilities and other features be in part influenced by how automatable they are? Yes, I would say absolutely. Yes, the design of features and actions will be heavily influenced by whether or not they are automatable. We're not going to insist dogmatically that everything have a sort of combat automation. There will be some spells or abilities that have fairly open-ended effects that the GM can then interpret and translate into use of the skill system or translate into use of application of boons and banes. So I don't want the gameplay of the system to be so closed-minded that like you can only play very narrowly within a predefined sandbox, but I also think that there will be more structure and rules here than maybe there are with other systems, and that might be right for some people and it might not be right for other people. It's just the way that Crucible is going to work because of the fact that the use of actions, the use of talents that give you actions that cause effects, those all need to work structurally within the software, and that need to work structurally within the software kind of does impose some guardrails on the way that we design. Let's see. Question from Ilothos. Sorry if you answered this before, but how will you get access to the playtest once it's released? We'll announce it on Discord, and then what you'll need to do once it's announced, the playtest is going to first be available to Patreon supporters, and then also available to anyone who's, gotten a key to access the playtest. But if you have access to the playtest either through Patreon or through a key, you'll link your Patreon account on the Foundry VTT website, and you'll be able to install the system inside the software. It'll be installable as premium content. Now, the system won't always be premium content. Just during this playtest period will it be restricted as premium content. No comment. It's just me. No comment. There's not a way to purchase a key right now, Index. It's just going to be available to our Patreon supporters and anyone who's won access through a giveaway. The Patreon playtest period is not going to be overly long. So, it won't be a grueling wait to get access to this if you're really excited about it. Like, it's not going to be incredibly long, but we are going to have a period, maybe a month or so, where it's available, a couple weeks, month, something like that, where it's available for patrons to test, and before it goes out to to everybody. So yeah, I mean, no opportunity to purchase it though. It's just going to be available to Patreon supporters, or or you can wait for the playtest period to be over. All right, I think that's about the end of the questions. You guys have been really great. I want to see if there's any other questions that I can answer for a brief moment before signing off today. It's been awesome to hang out and celebrate with you all the V11 release, which will be coming, I hope. I need to go check in with the team as soon as I get off stream. I hope that the V11 release will be coming shortly after the stream is done, but I'll have to check in with the team and see where we are with it. But really looking forward to getting that out for everybody, and then really looking forward to sharing more about Crucible with you tomorrow. I hope some of you who are interested in that will show up for that. I do have a lot more I can show with Crucible, and we'll get a little bit more into details about here are how talents work, and here's how signatures work, and here's how combat mechanics work, and here's how skill progression works, and things like that. So while this has been kind of a intentionally terse, high-level, quick survey, I will get much more into the details of explaining how the system is designed tomorrow. So I hope, if you're interested in that, I hope to see you here for that then tomorrow. But yeah, thank you all very much. I'll take a couple of questions before I sign off for the day, but I want to go check in with the team and make sure we can get the V11 release out. So that seems like the most exciting thing to focus on for now. Question from Revelo Waldo. What's your longer term intent for this system? Are you hoping it will look so good it sells Foundry to people? Will you make the whole system premium or content model themed other trees? I don't think we'd ever make the whole system premium. I think I've pretty much promised that the system will be available for free. So it's mostly the other things you mentioned. Like, I hope it'll make Foundry look good. I hope people will want to play it. It's fun for us to make something like this. If it ends up being popular, we can make content for it, and that's something that we could sell. If not, no harm. It'll still be a system, but I'm hoping that through continued testing and people loving it and further investment, I'm hoping it can be something that a lot of people really like, and if that's the case, then we'll be able to do more with it in the future. Question, will Eberhard be contributing to D&D 5e? I hope so, yeah. We got a little bit distracted with focusing on fixes that needed to go in for V11 stable, but I do think that Eberhard has some really good improvements for vision and detection management in the 5e system, and that's a key area where I think the system has an opportunity to improve as well. So I do expect that now that he's on the team, he'll be able to take a more leading role in getting some of that code merged, for sure. I'm looking forward to that. Question from Flamewave, will this be made available for pen and paper or just entirely in VTT? Just for VTT for now. I mean, the rules of Crucible, it is possible to play without the VTT. Like, the rules use a conventional set of RPG dice. The rules have ways of framing mechanics that is relatively familiar to people who play tabletop games. So it is like conceptually possible to play Crucible pen and paper, but it's not really intended for that. And so, yeah. Let's see here. DSRCM asks, who's the main designer or designers? So I guess it's fair to say that Crucible is my pet project that I have been working on for the past several years. It hasn't really become a team project until more recently. And even as it is, there's not too much team involvement, just a little bit of involvement from some folks on the team helping to get it, to the playtest milestone. But, I can take credit as well as criticism for Crucible. It's probably my responsibility on that front. How will this play in a hybrid TV/table in-person setup? I think it would play well for a hybrid TV table in-person setup, because you'll have the map, you'll have the grid spaces, so you can track, what's the movement distances, and what's the AP cost to move, and all of that. I need to change the units so that it's not 5 per square, but all of the grid-based stuff. So if we have let's get shield charging. I'm not going to fully build out this talent tree, but suppose this tank type character wants to do a shield charge through these hobgoblins and knock them out of the way. That will work really well in a hybrid sense, because you'll still have the table, you'll still have the screen, but you can have sort of some in-person role play and everything as well. I think it will work really well for a hybrid setup. Question from Zarkanchag: are you planning to make video playback for all players simultaneously? For example, when restarting page, the audio continues to play where everyone else is playing right now. It's a good idea that could be supported. It's conceptually possible, but there's reasons why it's not done at the moment. And there's reasons why each individual user's audio or video playback is potentially not synchronized across users, but rather synchronized for individual users. I think that's kind of a technical design trade-off, and we've made choices there in the past, but there are things that could be done to add a little bit more synchronization if desired. Question: what time is the stream tomorrow? 2 p.m. Eastern, so an hour earlier than we started today. Question from Mute Foxy: will that movement of the charge be automated in the end product? Yeah, probably. As you can see, the damage roll and the template placement is automated now, but the actual movement, another example, I guess, would be if this character has the step gesture. So we can cast a spell and we'll cast lightning step. If we cast lightning step to jump between these, right now it places the template, it rolls the dice that are needed, but it doesn't actually just warp the token. But that kind of actual automate the final movement, yeah, absolutely. Those are things that the final product would contain. Although, one of the things that's true about Crucible, and one of the things that I think is nice about it, is that since it's being built as a software product and not as a print product, there's no stopping point where you say, okay, the system is done now, this is it, this is the final product. It's more this is the version of the system that exists now until the next version is released, which can make some further changes or add some further improvements. So there's less of a closed door on this is when the improvements stop happening. All right, I think I've reached the end. So good job, me. Well done, Andrew. And well done to you all for sticking it out and hanging out with me and being such good companions and asking such good questions. I'm going to wrap up the stream and go focus on getting the release out, and then I will go have some celebratory dinner and recharge my batteries so that I have energy for tomorrow's stream. So thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. As soon as the stream is done, the full broadcast will be available on Twitch and then later on YouTube. But if you missed it, you can, as soon as the stream goes offline, you'll be able to watch the whole thing from the beginning on this Twitch channel. So, all right. Thank you all very much. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Look forward to hearing your experiences with V11. Let us know how it goes for you. Please do communicate in Discord. Keep us in the loop. And I will see you all next time. Farewell.